Hello, welcome to this Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. This video, we are going to be absolutely hyping up the new Army of Renown for Soulblight Gravelords that Games Workshop have just released in their new battle tome. If you're not quite sure how Armies of Renown work, it's like a separate, smaller version of the army that doesn't necessarily have the same rules that the main army has. A main army, or every battle tome, has these things called battle traits, which are special rules that apply to the whole army. The Army of Renown doesn't have that. The Army of Renown also has much more specific restrictions on what units you can take. However, there's been a really cool one that's come out with the Soulblight Gravelords called the Knights of the Crimson Keep, based around vampires, vampire lords, and vampire cavalry, which is pretty cool. And it's also very strong. So we're going to talk about this and give you a couple of example lists, obviously, before the points come out, because actually the list writing is actually really, really awkward when you get to it, but it sounds pretty nutty on paper. So let's go and have a look at what you can have inside of it. Okay, so Knights of the Crimson Keep. Also, let me know in the comments below what you think about this video. If you enjoy me just talking about just specifically an Army of Renown, I'd like to know that you want me to make those videos. So you can have Prince Vordry, the new model that's just been released. If included, it must be a general. Then a Vampire Lord and Nightmare Steed, also new model just released. Blood Knights, which is a cavalry unit that either come as 5 models or reinforceable up to a 10. And the Revenant Draconith, which is a large monster dragon model, which, in my personal opinion, having done the review, is actually pretty bad. So the main units we're going to focus on are Vordry, the Vampire Lord, and the Blood Knights. Okay, well, what do you get? The first thing is you get battle traits, which are different, so you won't be able to use the battle traits from the main book. They're separate. The first one is the Crimson Keep. Pick a friendly Crimson Keep unit that has not been deployed. So all of the units in this will be Crimson Keep. Set up that unit in reserve in the Crimson Keep. It's now been deployed. You cannot set up more friendly units in the Crimson Keep than they're on the battlefield. A good thing about this is if you've got a key unit like Vordry or your White King as an example that you want to keep off the board, you can keep them safe. Or you can decide that you're going to put a unit of Blood Knights on the side of the board because you're going to try and do a big old charge with them at some point and deep strike and try and mess the enemy up. Then, once per battle, in any movement phase, you cannot use this ability in the first battle round. Pick each friendly unit that is in the Crimson Keep to be the targets. Set up each target wholly within 9 inches of the enemy battlefield edge and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. If you use this ability in the third or subsequent battle round, do not spend any command points when using the Carve a Bloody Path command this turn. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So you have to bring all those models on. Now, writing the list and thinking about how it works, I probably would just put all of the models on the board anyway and wouldn't really bother with putting anything in reserve. You've got a really fast army. They're all cavalry units, so they're really quick. And you've got the ability to go even further with some of the charges. So I probably wouldn't mess around with this, especially as it means I don't get a lot of tempo early in the game because stuff is off the board. And if my opponents are going to try and charge me early, then I could be in some real trouble. Now, the command ability that they were talking about, Carve a Bloody Path, is done in your charge phase. You pick a friendly Blood Knight unit that is in combat to use this ability. That unit can use a charge ability even though it's in combat if it has already used a charge ability this turn. Now, this is huge for several reasons. Number one, I could charge in, and then I could charge again to really bunny hop my unit of Blood Knights anywhere around the board. Very cool. If I'm already in combat, what I could do is I could charge, and then I will gain my charge bonus for Blood Knights. You get +1 damage on the charge. We're going to look at those in a moment. So very, very effective for making those Blood Knights very scary. Difficult to also work out where they're going to end up. You could end up charging a piece of terrain, or manifestations, and then charging somewhere else and really jump around the board, which is very scary. Let's take a moment to actually look at the Blood Knights. We can see that it's a unit of 5 models, reinforceable up to unit of 10, 3 health each with a 3-up save, so they're very tanky. But they've also got 3 attacks each, which is going to be 31 attacks with a champion that have got charge +1 damage, so damage 2, and they got +1 rend against infantry. So it's quite a lot of damage. And their horses also have got 3 attacks each. So you're going to be rolling 61 dice. They also got the ability to move through infantry, thanks to Riders of Ruin, and do damage on the charge. So they're very scary. But also in this list, you have Vordry. Now, Vordry is also a great combat piece don't need to go much into that other than he just is really fast, very survivable, and very fighty. Has also got the ability to get strike first, and has also got a really fun mechanic here with Trail of Crimson, where you're going to be able to do a pile in and maybe like do retreats and pile in and redeploys and pile in and a bunch of really clever stuff with Trail of Crimson, which is very good. But the Saint of Slaughter ability is the main thing we're going to focus on, because every time you kill a unit with a vampire, an enemy unit with a vampire unit in your army, and all your units in this army will be a vampire unit, then you get to give them a bonus for the rest of the battle, including +1 damage to their attacks characteristic, or +1 to the damage of their melee weapons as well. That's wild. So you could end up with Blood Knights that are damage 3, damage 3 with 4 attacks each. So 41 attacks, damage 3 on the charge. And obviously you can constantly charge thanks to that command ability. That's a lot of damage, which is very, very scary. Now, they've also got a rampage called Blood Rampage, which is done in any combat phase, where you pick a friendly Crimson Keep monster. And the only one you're really going to use is Vordry, because the Revenant's not great. But maybe you'll have to have a Revenant for list building. This turn to use this ability, then pick an enemy unit within combat. This unit can make a move of 2d6. It must end that move in combat with the target unit, then roll a dice. If the roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, 1 model in the target unit is slain. After the ability has been resolved, this unit cannot use another rampage. So this is really good for Vordry again, because you could charge in, and then you could use this rampage to make an additional 2d6 move, and then maybe get to another character, unit, or something, or even an objective that your opponent wasn't expecting, and then hit that. So it's going to be really difficult when this army charges to work out where it's going to end up and who it's going to fight. And you're going to be in a really favorable position to use it. So it's very scary. Okay. Now, you also get 1 heroic trait and 1 artifact of power, which you're going to be able to take on a character, but not Vordry. So it's just going to be on your Vampire Lord or Nightmare Steed. The first one is a Mortal Dedication, where a unit in any combat phase, you receive 3 D3 martial prowess tokens. Then you get to reroll a hit roll for this unit, reroll a wound roll for this unit, reroll a save roll for this unit, for spending each one of the D3 that you get. At the start of the next turn, remove all this unit's martial prowess tokens. So making them more survivable, making them do more damage is excellent. Also, keeping them alive is really important as well, because of the Chalice of the Blood Dragon, which is an artifact of power that you do once per battle, where you heal 3d3, which is really good. And if we take a look at the Vampire Lord or Nightmare Steed, a good frontline combat character as well with 7 health. So get it down to 1 and then heal 3d3 back. We're back to good. But what's great about this is the support role he plays in this kind of mini army as well. The first one is Strike at the Heart. In any combat phase, pick a friendly Blood Knights unit that charges this turn and is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. You add 1 to the Rend characteristic of that unit's Templar weapons for the rest of the turn. Amazing. So now we can make it so our Blood Knights are even doing, got better Rend and on the charge, and we know that we can get all those charge bonuses because we can use the command ability, which is really good. But the other reason this guy's great, or lady's great, or whatever, is because of For Glory, for Blood, the ability you can see up there, which is a reaction to you declaring a charge ability, which allows this character to reroll its charges, but also a unit of Blood Knights wholly within 12 inches to reroll its charges. But you can also do that in your opponent's turn, so you can get a command ability. You can use the command ability to charge in your opponent's turn, and then make that unit for free, the Blood Knight unit, also get a counter charge. So counter charge the hero, counter charge the unit, all with rerolls. Very scary. Very, very scary. To help with that, there are 3 spells that you can also take. So both Vordry and the Vampire Lord are wizards. The first spell, which we'll talk about at the bottom, is called Deathly Gale, which is cast on 7. And you pick a Crimson Keep unit wholly within 12 inches of the wizard, and you can add 1 to the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls to that unit. So now you've got rerollable 3d6 charges, potentially on a counter charge as well, because you can cast this also in your opponent's turn. Very scary. You've got Siphon Strength, where you pick an enemy unit within 18 inches and they take D3 mortal damage. For the rest of the turn, you can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by the caster, which is great for Vordry. And then you've got Awakened Fury, where you can pick a friendly keep. You can pick a friendly Crimson Keep unit, wholly within 12 inches, and you could add 1 to the damage characteristic of the target's companion weapons. So now, if you wanted to, you can make Vordry's companion weapon attacks do +1 damage, which is very nice, because that means Vordry is going to get 3 attacks damage 4 and 7 attacks damage 3, which is really cool. So now we tried to do a little bit of list building with this, and it's a little bit challenging. You can go for Vordry, and you could go, these are the current points before Games Workshop release the new points. Now, normally they don't generally change the points that much. So this is about what you're looking at. Vordry, 30 Blood Knights, 1 drop, fully send it. Perfect. Once you start adding in wanting the rerolls and the extra rend, it gets a little bit more complicated. Like Vordry, 2 Vampire Lords on Nightmare Steeds, probably in different regiments, 25 Blood Knights. That's a sticky point. That becomes a little bit more challenging. That's if they're 180 as well. They might be like 220. We don't know what their points are. This is just me kind of guessing at the moment. This is the shareholder value list because the dragon isn't very good, but probably they wrote this Army of Renown wanting you to take the dragon. So Vordry, Vampire Lord on Nightmare Steed, all new models, 10 Blood Knights, and then 2 of the crap new dragons, which are probably going to come in at like £80 each or something. I don't know. But I don't like that one. And then there's the non-Vordry version where it's like Vampire Lord on Nightmare Steed, 30 Blood Knights, a Vampire Lord on Nightmare Steed, and 5 Blood Knights if you wanted to go that way as well. Because that's another kind of interesting version of the list. So it's quite restrictive in the list building. I quite like this like micro restriction, but it's going to be about charging, doing damage. You've got a good armor save. You have limited magic offense or defense, but it's just all send all the time, just doing a ton of damage. You lose out on recursion, you lose out on the terrain feature, so it might just be okay. But that's kind of like a rough look at like this Army of Renown. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this something that's got you all pumped up and the blood flowing? Because they're vampires. Let me know in the comments. Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye.